Gotta keep on breathing if you wanna make sense of it all. We will not fall.
Hi, I'm Adrienne from Indie Yoga, and today I would like to talk to you about props, yoga props for your practice. And as we come into October, I like to call this month Proptober, simply because most of the practices that we do in our class themes will be prop based. So I feel quite surrounded today by all of the props that I've brought to share with you. And I just want to say something about props. When you go into a practice in a studio, maybe you see all the props as you walk in. You see the yoga mats, the bolsters, the blocks, the straps, the eye pillows, all of that. And you probably never really take them off of the shelves and take them to your mat with you, unless they're already laid out in front of you by your teacher. So what I would say is next time you go into your studio or into your own home practice is have some of these props available and use them whether or not you need them. Props should never be seen as, cheating or as a weakness. I see props as being our friends in our practice. They support us. They fill the space between us and the earth. They fill the space between us and hands, particularly in binds and leg stretches when we're using belts. But we all need a little bit of help from our friends sometimes. So next time you come to your mat, find a prop and give it a go. So let's talk about all of the props that are around me at the moment. I'm going to start off with, first of all, a yoga mat. You don't need a yoga mat. If you're practicing at home, you might just be on carpet. After a while, your knees might get a little bit sore, carpet burn, things like that, or a hard surface. You might really be having tender knees if you're doing a lot of kneeling work. So yoga mat actually kind of makes sure that you stay in one place. There are many, many, many yoga mats on the market. Some range in sponginess, thickness, grippiness, stickiness, and really it's your personal choice of what type of yoga mat you like to practice on. Again, you don't need one. A towel is sufficient enough. But what I would say is stay away from the very, very thick fitness mats that you might find in gyms. They're very, very spongy and they're also very stretchy. So particularly when we come into postures like downward dog, you'll start to feel that your legs start moving away from you and your hands start moving away from you because the mat is stretching underneath. So I really love a cork yoga mat. It's not that sticky, but you can make it a little bit more grippier by adding water to it. So you just simply spray the areas where your hands, where your feet go, and that's going to improve your grip. However, I do have another yoga mat which is particularly sticky, and you can maybe hear the stickiness. And again, you shouldn't really rely on the stickiness of or grippiness of a yoga mat. You should be creating the strength from yourself, because you tend to rely on the yoga mat to stop you from slipping rather than using and engaging your muscles in the legs, in the ankles, in the wrists, elbows and shoulders. So really finding a yoga mat that really suits you can take quite a while, but you don't have to spend the earth. Okay, so looking at other props that you might need, and they can be household items. Okay, so the next thing I would probably say is maybe get yourself a little cushion, a zafu as this one is known as. This was a gift from a dear friend of mine for my birthday, so I'm very, very grateful for this gift. But it's a meditation cushion, but I use it just to do some breathing exercises. It simply lifts my hips up a little away from the mat. A lot of people struggle to just sit like this without slouching, so it just helps to lift you up. If you don't have a meditation cushion or a zafu, use a cushion from your sofa, or you can use a block. So a block, again, will simply lift you up away from the mat. It fills the space between you and the earth. It keeps the spine nice and long yet relaxed. We're hopefully not slouching and leaning back too much into that seated position. So you can use the blocks instead of the zafus, or even the bolsters, a range of bolsters. Smaller, foam filled, buckwheat filled, and this one is a longer, very more solid foam as well. So particularly bolsters, you use those in maybe restorative and yin practices, and you can use those to, again, support the body when you're holding postures for a number of minutes. In restorative, you might be holding a posture between 3 and 10 minutes, or in yin practice, you use them to fill the space between you and the ground as well. So they are just there to support the body rather than you having to hold the body up. So you can really allow yourself to fall into that place of gravity. Okay, so then we come to props that you might use for your practice in certain postures. So that's blocks and wedges and blankets. So let's just have a look at the block here. This is, again, a cork. You can get these in foam, but you can also use a hardback book. And yes, this is one of my favorite authors. So I've got a lot of these hardback books, but hardback books, not paperback books. So look, it's roughly about the same height, roughly about the same thickness. And if you look at a block, you have 3 heights. There is your lowest height, there is your middle height, and there is your highest height. So using the blocks, we can use them in lunges, or crescent lunges, or lizard lunges, to again fill the space. And I would recommend getting 2 blocks. So using them again on any of the levels, it fills the space. So if you're bringing a foot forward, dropping into the hips, releasing into the shoulders, and using the blocks on any of those levels. Maybe you don't need the blocks. Maybe your hands come down to the mat. That's okay. All right. So you have the blocks or hardback books. The other type of blocks that you can have are these thinner blocks. So a little bit wider, a little bit thinner. Again, you can sit on those. You can use those instead of the zafu or the harder blocks, the higher blocks. You might be able to use these in tabletop position. Again, I always recommend just buying 2. These are a little bit thinner, so things like tabletop position, not so much flexion into the wrists. You might use them in downward facing dogs. And you might use them for supporting the head and the neck, maybe when you're lying down on your back. The other thing that we'd like to look at is just something to protect the knees. So if you have a towel and you have sensitive knees, and we're doing a bit of kneeling work, tabletops, lunges, again, you can use the towel to pad out the knees, and simply a little bit of cushioning there. Again, if we're coming into these lunges, padding out the back knee. Half splits, padding out the back knee. And you can also use the towel as your strap or your yoga belt. So if we're coming into some poses where we're doing some binds or some arm stretches and you can't quite you can't quite reach the underneath hand, you can use the towel here. So in cow face pose or these archer arms, lengthening, and you might then start to get a little bit closer to the hands after using the towel. And this is a yoga strap, so you'll usually have like a little D-ring on the end so that you can start to pull and make that gap a little bit bigger, and you can loop, so these go over your hands, over your feet, in leg stretches, and again using them to fill the space. Lying down on your back, leg stretches, placing strap over the leg. Maybe you don't meet the foot, the calf, or the thigh. So we've looked at blocks, bolsters, straps. And then we can look at other items in our practice that really, again, support us, which are the blankets. You can use just household blankets. And you can use them to support the knees. You can use them to support the head. And of course, you can use it to place over the body when you're in your full relaxation at the end of the practice in Shavasana. I just want to talk about some of the more intermediate props that you might find, which are a yoga wheel. Great for back extension work, more advanced or intermediate posture work of using a prop such as a wheel. I'm just going to show you a supported fish on the wheel, so really just taking time to get used to the wheel. And again, you can use a bolster for this or the blocks with a supported fish. You don't have to have a wheel, of course, but making sure that the wheel comes into the center of the spine. You feel nice and comfortable, starting to lift the hips and then releasing back, opening up through the chest, the spine. Feels so nice. Coming out nice and slowly. Haven't played on my yoga wheel for quite a while. I think I need to get it back out again. The other thing I want to talk to you about is the inversion or a feet up style, where if you're learning how to do headstands, maybe you've perfected your headstands against the wall or with somebody supporting your feet, you might then wish to move to one of these, it's quite heavy, one of these inversion chairs or inversion tables. So I actually use it as a coffee table quite often. So really, there are all different styles on the market. Again, finding one that meets your budget and works for you. So with an inversion chair, I'm a little bit short on height here. I expect my toes to touch the ceiling, but you start to bring the head down and it supports the neck, it supports the shoulders. Holding on and starting to come up into your headstands. Oh, I'm not touching the ceiling. Oh yeah, there I am. Good. So that's just something that can help with learning how to do headstands. There are other things you can actually do on them. Some of the inversion chairs send you like a little DVD or a little poster with all of the things that you can actually do on the chair. So last thing I want to talk about, and this is the chair. A very, very simple prop, and we all hopefully have some dining room chair at home, and whether or not you can do mat-based yoga practices, a chair is one of those props that you may just like to use every so often. So particularly if you are lying down on your back. This one's a little bit high actually. It's okay. And then relaxing the feet over the edge, making sure the knees. This feels really nice for the spine. Such a nice release. Legs are slightly lifted, but not all the way up, and you're not holding them in. Again, it's like a legs against the wall posture. So you can soften into this posture. But particularly seated practices on the chair. You can take most of your postures on the chair. You can take twists. Maybe you sit at your desk all day and you can just do a few of these exercises to break up your seated work. You can do back extension work just by coming a little bit forward and then holding onto the back of the chair, opening up the chest, using the back of the chair, getting the elbows tucked in towards the midline, lengthening the spine, lengthening the neck, and even forward folds. And even warrior twos. Proptober, or just props for your practice. And finding the props that you really need and you want to work with. I have collected these props over a number of years. I certainly didn't start my practice with any of them. I started with a yoga mat that was £15, and I built everything up that I felt that I needed. And now I feel that all of these props really do support my practice as I need it. And it's all about filling the space. Okay, again, it's not cheating. It's not a sign of weakness. If you're in a yoga class and somebody is next to you and they're using props and you're not, that's okay. And vice versa. So I really want to, get that across, that it's not a sign of weakness or cheating to use any of these in your practice. It actually deepens your practice, if anything. So let me know how you get on with Proptober and any of the props that you wish to introduce into your practice.